Welcome to this Kirkpatrick podcast recording. This is Wendy Kirkpatrick, and I'm here with my husband and business partner, Jim Kirkpatrick. Our topic for today is rod and staff. Do they still apply? I'm going to turn it over to Jim to explain exactly what this is all about, and then we'll discuss it together.
Many of the concepts we now call the New World Four Levels are more recent enhancements to the foundational four-level principles that my father developed 50 years ago and has been working on ever since. One of the concepts is of required drivers. What are the processes and systems that will increase the likelihood that people will apply what they've learned? We get these ideas sometimes talking among ourselves, but mostly from talking to you, the practitioners. And it's funny because I smile at myself sometimes when I think that we've come up with an original idea, and then I find out it's not original at all. It's been done before. One recently that came to my attention was from King David back in the times of Israel and 3,000 years ago, when he used to write letters and songs and psalms. And in the 23rd Psalm he writes, describing God, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And I was thinking about that. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. What does that mean today? Well, thy rod is the accountability portion of our four-level model. It's the act of accountability that will compel people to apply what they've learned. And what's the staff? Well, it's the walking stick that they used to lean on as they were walking over rough ground and rocky trails to make their journeys. And the staff is the support that will encourage people to apply what they've learned. So Wendy, you have some thoughts about this as well, thy rod and thy staff.
Well, I do have some ideas, Jim. For those of you who have actually met us and worked with us together, what many people have observed is that Jim is really the heart of Kirkpatrick Partners, and I'm the brain. Jim comes up with these great ideas, and I help to operationalize them and bring them to life. So when Jim starts talking to me about the rod and the staff, the first thing my brain goes to is, can something from that long ago still apply today? And if so, what would that look like in today's modern workplace? Well, Jim and I discussed this at some length, and we decided this is exactly like the required drivers that we encourage everybody to put in place when they're putting together their training plans to help people to apply what they learned when they get back on the job. So let's talk first about what do we do in terms of a staff. Well, the staff is the sorts of things that we put in place to support people on the job, to make it easier for them to do the right things and get rewarded when they do that. I'll give you an example of what that would look like. Let's say you've conducted some communications training on positive conflict resolution. And in that training program, you provided a 5-step process that if participants use it, you believe will help to diffuse the conflict, resolve it in a positive way so that everybody can move forward and work together better. So some of the things that you might use as your staff or encouragers would be, number one, a job aid. It's a lot easier to follow a process if you've got a visual reminder right in front of you. So that job aid could have the 5 steps printed on it to help people right at the time when they need that resolution process. Another thing that you could put in place is an informal rewards system. Maybe you could have some postcards that say caught you doing something right, and you could give people the ability to nominate their peers when they do get into a situation that's maybe a little bit sticky. They follow the 5 steps in the process and they have a positive outcome. You then have information that you can use to reward those people, perhaps in a weekly staff meeting, in a company newsletter, on the company website, or even in a formal awards ceremony. So there are lots of different ways that you can encourage that the right behaviors happen on the job. Now, on the other side, you also don't want to forget about the rod, because people know that what gets measured gets done. And when you do measure something and monitor it and hold people accountable, they also know that this is important and something that they should be doing. So in the case of this positive conflict resolution process, what you might consider having is a self or peer reporting system, that if somebody does get into a situation that is spiraling into a conflict, people can report on their own behalf or for the person who they were having the conversation with that they didn't follow the steps and maybe things didn't go as well as they could. Then, as a result of that reporting process, an expert, a coach, or a supervisor could sit down with the people involved, go back, recap the situation, and actually help them to follow the steps in the process and resolve that conflict in the best possible way. So you really want to make sure you have both the rod and the staff when you have an important initiative or an important training program, and you really need to see people applying those things on the job. What else would you want everybody to know about this, Jim?
Wendy, I want to be really clear about one thing. Kirkpatrick evaluation and the 4 levels is not just about delivering training and in the end hoping that somehow results come. We believe strongly in creating value by getting people to apply what they learned and then demonstrating something that truly is of value. So this level 3 that we're talking about here with the rod and the staff, the accountability and the support, the rest of the verse says, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And we find time and time again from people in the field that when you apply and administer a system that helps people take the training that they've had and be successful with it through a balance of support and accountability, they are truly comforted. They are not discouraged, they're not overwhelmed, they're comforted because they have people that care about them, a system that helps them be successful, that reduces the likelihood of failure. They also can see the progress and the contributions they're making, and truly, 3,000 years later, thy rod and thy staff, they will comfort and encourage your people.
Thanks, Jim. Now, if you've enjoyed this Kirkpatrick podcast recording, you can make sure that you never miss one by registering with us. All you have to do is go to kirkpatrickpartners.com, and in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage, there's a place to register. Registration is free, and what it does is it gives you access to our online resources library that contains over 50 white papers, articles, podcast recordings like this one, tools, tips, and diagrams. You'll also receive our weekly e-newsletter that has additional content just like this included each and every week. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.